Is Tyron Smith really going to start at right tackle on Sunday? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am Marcus Mosher, the host of Locked On Cowboys. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me, as always, is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, we were joking pre-show that we don't talk from Wednesday to Friday, and it seems like all this football news happens. But how are you doing today, sir?
I'm overwhelmed with football news. Honestly, we have a game preview that we're going to get to with another important game, and then obviously lots of news and notes that kind of just comes with the meal, as they say, when it comes to covering the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, let's start with some news that we know is happening. Tyron Smith practiced this week. It seems like he's going to be activated and he's going to play on Sunday for the first time this year against Jacksonville. But the question is, where? It sounds like, Landon, the Cowboys are really thinking about the idea of playing Tyron at right tackle, the spot that he played all the way back in 2011. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I gotta say, this is one of the kind of configurations that I never really considered, just because I figured it was kind of a non-starter. I mean, you're getting Tyron Smith back from injury. And look, you look at the situation, you realize that you've got three, let's call it at least starter level quality left tackles on the roster. And now that you've lost Terrence Steele, you've got no starter level quality right tackles. So the idea that one of these guys was going to have to go over there and play some right tackle was, not far-fetched. I just think that in my mind, Tyron was the last of the three that I would have anticipated it being moved. Now that I've thought about it for some time, it makes some sense. If Tyron is capable of doing it and has the willingness to do it, which if he is, God thank for him, because he's what a team player. Because that is not an easy transition. No. He is a Hall of Fame level left tackle. Asking Jason Peters to do it is still one thing, because Jason Peters is kind of, on the tail end of his career. Not that Tyron isn't nearing the end of his career, but Tyron is still a high level left tackle. So the idea of moving him over there is surprising. But I mean, just looking at it this way, obviously it stabilizes the right side. You finally get the opportunity to see Tyron Smith and Zach Martin play next to each other, which is the most exciting part about all this. And then I think that the thing that is really underrated is that it allows you to keep the kind of trio of Jason Peters, Tyler Smith, and Connor McGovern to man that left side with a high level of continuity. They've all been playing on that left side at left tackle, left guard, and obviously Peters and Tyler Smith have been kind of rotating back and forth between those two spots. But I just think that in that sense, as far as getting the best five players on the field, if that's ultimately what you're trying to do, I think that it probably accomplishes that in the best way, that also maintains the what you've built on that left side as far as continuity and kind of understanding how to play with each other and all of those important things that make offensive line play about cohesiveness.
I saw our guy Michael Gelkin at the Dallas Morning News. He last night tweeted out the article that Tyron practiced at right tackle and he's expected to start. And my initial reaction was, I don't know how to feel. And I wish I could tell you today. I thought about it and I feel one way or the other. I just don't. Until we see it, the only thing that I can think of is, you're right, it's going to be awesome to see Zach Martin and Tyron Smith play together. That's just never happened before. And I can't wait to see what those guys look like in the run game. And honestly, that's the only part of it that I think makes a ton of sense. Is the Cowboys had so much success running the ball on the right side this year that I wonder if they looked at Josh Ball, Jason Peters, and Tyron Smith and said, okay, which tackle gives us the best chance to continue to be a dominant running team? And the answer is Smith. And maybe it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing that I think that is causing this kind of confusion, because I honestly, like, I felt the same way when I saw it. I, I just never considered it as an option. Like when this all came up, I just never popped in my head as something that Tyron would be down for, that the Cowboys would be interested in doing. And so
it's funny that Tyron's more open to doing this than Zach Martin, because Zach has been very vocal that he does not want to play tackle at all.
Yeah, I think, and I understand that, but I also wonder if it isn't about, that it isn't about like the actual difference in movements and that sort of thing as well. Like I think that there is a difference between sliding out to guard and then switching sides, and obviously it may be more difficult technically to switch sides left tackle to right tackle than it is from right guard to right tackle, but it may be more. Your body may be better suited for the type of movements, even if it's going the opposite direction than when you play inside. So, I look. I mean, this isn't a comment on Zach Martin, because I think Zach Martin is not out of out of the realm of normal to not want to go kick out to tackle. Just like I would totally not be shocked if Tyron Smith had said no to this. Because it's asking somebody to do something that they haven't been doing for the vast majority of their very successful career. I instead of viewing this as Zach wasn't willing to do this, I'm more viewing it as, wow, that's really what a team player Tyron is for volunteering to do this, because this certainly isn't what has been requested of him. For the most part, he easily could have just said no.
I also wonder if it's more of a Tyron Smith looking at the landscape of their offensive line and being like, you know what, I can help this team out. They've been very loyal to me through all my injuries over the year. And if they think this is the best way to help the team out this year, I'll do it. And listen, there's also a chance, Landon, they try it in this Jacksonville game. It goes poorly, and all of a sudden he's right back at left tackle. Like that's always an option as well.
I think it's good that they're trying it, because like at least it gives me the impression that they believe in this team, and to me, if anything, it's Tyron looking at the situation, go, hey, we've got a good team this year. I've got a chance to be a real serious part of this. If I can make this, switch to the other side, that may be the best thing for not only the team, but for my chances to late in my career make a real playoff run and do something. This is
sure.
I think the Cowboys realize that this is a real opportunity this season. Maybe outside of the normal realm of seasons, there aren't a ton of NFC contenders that have stood out. There's maybe two other ones.
Dak is healthy in December.
Dak's healthy.
Zeke is here.
You have an opportunity here.
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at. I mean, you've got DeMarcus Lawrence, who's been banged up a lot through his career. He's relatively healthy now. You got Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs on rookie contracts. You still have Tony Pollard here for maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 more games at the most, right? You've got some young guys on rookie contracts. Maybe they are feeling like this is our shot. Let's go make a run. And maybe that's why they're still so adamant about adding somebody like Odell Beckham, which we should at least mention right now. Yeah. Jerry Jones seems very confident that they're going to sign him with the intention of having him play in the playoffs. I just wonder if between Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy, some of the older veterans on the team, if they feel like, okay, now is our chance. Not next year, not the year after. It's right now.
All the tea leaves at this point, like for the last few weeks, to me, read like Jerry has taken some sort of baseball bat and slammed it down on the foot of whoever's got their foot over the gas pedal on this team. And basically like, hey, look, they signed T.Y. Hilton, and then on top of that are still going to get Odell Beckham Jr. That to me reads like, hey, we know we need somebody now, and we will still take somebody on the back end of this. They're trying these moves out with Tyron Smith. All of this reads like they really believe they have an opportunity this year, maybe more so than some other years. We're gonna put all of it into it. We're gonna go all the way in. So we'll see how it all works out. But they definitely are buying in and going full steam ahead with this season.
Which is so crazy, because you and I all offseason talked like, hey, every move that they've made is with the idea of being competitive in 2023. I think it's this year, Landon. Like, You're here.
Yeah, I think they got here and the angles changed on them. Like some of these guys accelerated a little bit quicker than they thought. The schedule obviously was a huge part of it, and then the way the season has played out. It's just the Cowboys are in a good spot, not just because of the way they play, but because of the way the season has played out. So I think they saw an opportunity and they're just taking advantage of it.
All right, let's continue to talk about this offensive line, but more specifically how the Cowboys offense will match up against the Jaguars. But before we do that, I want to let you know about Tommy John. You guys should know about Tommy John now. The absolute best long johns, loungewear, pajamas in the world. Don't make your loved ones face the dead of winter in old t-shirts, ancient underwear, and ratty sweats. Guys, you got like one more week to wait out to get some socks and some underwear. This is always the worst week of the year. Help them fight the cold with cozy. Give the gift of Tommy John. With Tommy John, you're just that much more comfortable. You can do everything better. Shop Tommy John's Wrap It Up sale right now and give the gift of comfort to everyone on your list, including yourself. It's perfectly fine to go buy stuff for yourself right now. With new Tommy John underwear, loungewear, and pajamas, with over 18 million pairs sold, giving Tommy John has become a holiday tradition. 97% of women and men love getting a gift from Tommy John. I can't imagine the 3% of people that don't like getting Tommy John. I just don't believe that number. There's no way that there's people.
They misread the survey is what happened.
Yeah, it must be. That's why Tommy John doesn't have customers. They have fanatics. Celebrate softness season with the gift of new Tommy John underwear, loungewear, and pajamas. Every gift is backed by Tommy John's best pair you'll ever wear, or it's free guarantee. Hurry to Tommy John's Wrap It Up sale and get 30% off everything plus free shipping at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. Order now so your gifts arrive before the holidays. 30% off plus free shipping at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. TommyJohn.com/lockedon. See site for details. All right, let's talk about.
I definitely need some Tommy Johns because it's almost it got below 50 today, Marcus. 50 below 50 degrees. So we're really cold out here in Los Angeles.
Let's talk about this Cowboys offense going up against the Jaguars defense. How do you think Dallas matches up in this one?
It's the defense is really interesting because it's such a kind of odd blend of like young, talented, high draft picks, and then like spackled together with like veteran guys that they could sign on cheap contracts, right? There's definitely some guys on here that the Cowboys defense has got to watch out. Obviously, it starts kind of with Josh Allen and Travon Walker, but it doesn't sound like Travon Walker is going to play. I don't imagine.
No, he's got ankle sprain. Seems very unlikely.
Yeah, so it sounds like that ankle sprain started out as a low ankle sprain, and then as we got more information, it creeped up a little bit higher, and he's not playing. So, yeah, you still got to obviously watch out for Josh Allen. He's an extremely high rated player, a high draft pick. He's a guy that started to kind of come on a little bit this last season, last two seasons, and I think that that's maybe part of the reason that they wanted to get someone like Tyron Smith out on the right side is trying to put Josh Ball up against Allen, maybe a little bit of a mismatch. They have a couple other kind of players, like good players sprinkled throughout. I mean, I think a guy that real quick, this is probably terrible radio, but I was looking at Tyson Campbell. And I was like, and I could not remember because I went back to look at my notes of Tyson Campbell and they were okay. And I remember that one of us liked Tyson Campbell and the other one of us liked Eric Stokes. And I honestly don't remember who it was because I had pretty positive notes about both of them. Honestly.
Yeah. So our first YouTube video ever was a video that we did on Tyson Campbell, Eric Stokes, and
I didn't like Tyson. I think I didn't like Tyson.
Yeah, I was Tyson's having a really nice season.
He is. He's having a very nice season. Yeah.
It's just the rest of that secondary is so up and down.
Yeah, and I mean, look, that's the real problem is that they just, they're a year away, they're 2 years away, and they
on
just
that
started
side of the ball at least,
yeah, and they've just started kind of working, figuring that thing out and rebuilding that side. They've got a guy on the opposite side named Darius Williams who is
former
not been playing necessarily fantastic. A couple other kind of guys that have been journeymen in the defensive secondary that aren't really notable. They've drafted at the second level. They went out and got a guy that we as Cowboy fans have heard the name of. Devin Lloyd was a linebacker for Utah that the Cowboys were obviously interested in. That at times was being compared to Micah Parsons, if I remember correctly.
I was gonna say, if you like the draft at all, like this Jacksonville team is for you, because we talked about all these guys between Tyson Campbell, Chad Muma, who's one of their linebackers, Devin Lloyd, with Trayvon Walker being out. That means our guy Caleb Von Chason is going to start as one, as
well as Arden Key's another guy. These are all guys that we talked about.
Arden Key played well for the 49ers against the Cowboys last year in the playoff game. Andre Sisco is one of their safeties. It's just a lot of players that you'll recognize. The problem is, outside of Josh Allen and Tyson Campbell, the defense has underperformed.
Yeah, it really has. And honestly, like, you watch the team overall, and we'll get into the offense here in a sec, but it looks like a team that's still trying to figure it out. They're just like a lot of miscommunications. There's a lot of kind of mental errors. It's not an undisciplined bad team. I think it's just a young team that is still kind of finding its way. So you'll see that, right? Where like they'll make a play, they'll put an offense in a bad spot, they'll get them to third down, and then they'll miss a tackle, or or they'll get over aggressive and not read a screen that's coming their way, and then give up a big play. And then offensively, they do similar things, right? They'll make, Lawrence will make a great play down the field, or get it to Ingram for a big gain. And then Zay Jones drops a 5-yard, pass on third down that, they can't convert. So that's kind of the theme with a lot of what's going on with the Jaguars, is they have a ton of talent. I mean, clearly they've collected a ton with all their draft picks that they've had. And they haven't quite all fit it together, but they have so much talent that every once in a while they're producing big plays, they're creating big moments. It's just about kind of that inability to string it all together to make it consistent.
Yeah, it's a talented group that just is a little bit inconsistent. And I think you'll see that play out in the game. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, Landon, if Jacksonville puts together like 2 or 3 really good series in a row on defense. And you're thinking, man, the Cowboys are struggling. And all of a sudden, it's a 30-yard bomb to Noah Brown for a touchdown. Like, that kind of stuff is going to happen. So just don't let them hang around, is what I'm going to say. We've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, right? If you let this defense build confidence and think that they can stop your offense, they'll probably start to feel like they can't. So it's Allen and Campbell. Those are the 2 guys to watch out for in this game.
Yeah, especially on that side of the ball, for sure. Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the Jacksonville offense, which has taken off quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. But before we do that, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Total Wine & More. This holiday season, find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite Cabernet or Chardonnay, or the perfect gift for everyone on your list, with some help from a friendly guide. And all with the confidence of knowing you found something special for the absolute lowest price. Love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Drink responsibly. Be 21. All right, this is where this game is going to be decided. Jacksonville's offense against Dallas's defense. Trevor Lawrence really, really starting to play well over the last month. It's a shame that Dallas catches this Jacksonville team when they're finally clicking on offense. What makes you the most nervous about this offense?
Well, it's just that, the thing that we talk about with this Cowboys team overall, right, is that we want to have a young team that by the end of the year is really starting to come together and peak, right? Mm-hmm. And that, on offense for Jacksonville, that's what seemingly is happening for them, right? Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, Etienne, Ingram in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. These guys have really started to kind of come together. Zay Jones in some ways, have really started to kind of coalesce a little bit more than they had been earlier in the season. They're finding their footing. They're making plays when they need to be. You're starting to see Trevor Lawrence start to become the kind of quarterback that we all anticipated he would be I've been watching Trevor Lawrence highlights since he was in high school. So, this is a guy that's been highly anticipated as being an NFL quarterback for a long time. And he's starting to kind of finally grow into that number 1 overall pick role, I think that where the Cowboys have some good news here is that where the Jaguars seem to be developing is in the passing game, and that I think that's where they are feeling the more and more comfortable, they still have a very poor run blocking offensive line. They are not going to move bodies. They're not really going to be able to fully take advantage of the Cowboys in the run game the way other teams have previously. Even with the Hankins gone, I don't think they'll I think they'll run the ball, and they'll definitely make an effort there because they've got Etienne healthy again finally. For the first time. Well, I mean, he's been back for a couple of weeks, but I mean, just recently.
Yeah.
So I do think that they will continue to kind of try to run the football. I don't know that they're going to have the same sort of success. So eventually it's going to become a passing game. And I do think that despite the fact that there's been improvement. Like I said, you're starting to see Kirk come alive. Yeah. Ingram had a really great game last week with Lawrence. I just think that it's still that's more the type of kind of game the Cowboys defense would like to play than a team that's gonna like have a two running backs and a quarterback that can run the football. Like that's much more difficult for a team.
This team reminds me very much of the Chargers team that the Cowboys played in week 2 last season. Yeah, where it was Justin Herbert in year 2, and he's going to make, I'm just telling you right now, he's going to make 4 or 5 throws in this game that are just insane, just over the fingertips of people for 25 yards, and you're going to have to live with it. Like it just happens. The key is to finish the plays that are there, because I watched last week Tennessee. There was a play, Tennessee rushed 4. All 4 guys for the Titans won their rep. Jeffrey Simmons almost brings down Trevor Lawrence with a sack, and he's able to escape and throws a one-arm pass to Evan Ingram down the sideline for like 38 yards. And it's ridiculous. Yeah. If they finish those type of plays and turn those into sacks, can get this team to 3rd and 12 and 3rd and 13, they're going to be fine. But you're going to have to live with Lawrence just being awesome, because he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's the thing about it, is that a great quarterback playing well is tough to beat, but it is certainly something that the Cowboys have done before. And look, this is, as bad as it is for the Cowboys to be playing an ascending Trevor Lawrence, it's not great for Trevor Lawrence to be playing an angry Cowboys defense that didn't get any sacks last week. I have a feeling that they're going to be on their P's and Q's. He doesn't have a lot of help here. I mean, Cam Robinson, who is a decent tackle, is by far their best offensive lineman, and that is not boding well for him having a ton of time in the pocket.
To Tony Wiggs on Thursday, and he said that Robinson has even struggled a little bit in the recent weeks. So the Cowboys have got to get a pass rush, right? Like, this is a game. Yeah. If Micah Parsons wants to win Defensive Player of the Year, these are the kind of games he has to dominate. I want to see big games from Lawrence and Parsons in this one.
Yeah, and again, you've got 3 guys in the interior that are not playing good football right now, and one of which is Brandon Sheriff, which is really kind of surprising. Just seemingly fell off a cliff after getting into Jacksonville.
And he's dealing with an injury.
So there's definitely going to be hay to be made inside. And then on the outside, like we mentioned, Robinson and Juwan Taylor is a tackle from Florida. I'm pretty sure it was a 2nd or 3rd round pick years ago. He's he doesn't quite, he's more of an athlete, so he does have some movement skills. He's definitely not going to move anybody off the ball in the run game. But he has some movement skills. There's no excuse. Neither one of these guys is up to the same level as Parsons or Lawrence. So there should be plenty of pressure to be had, and there needs to be, because if you that's the one thing I noticed from the Tennessee game is they just let Lawrence sit in the pocket all day. Yeah. They were able to get some pressure on him occasionally, and then the problem really with that is that they weren't able to convert it when they did get pressure into sacks. But beyond that, for most of the game, Trevor Lawrence didn't look like he had much difficulty finding or with time to find his receivers. So the Cowboys definitely cannot play that game. I think that they have a coverage advantage over the receivers, but the way to win this game is to bring Trevor Lawrence down behind the line of scrimmage.
One more matchup just before we do our prediction. Yeah, Zay Jones against Kelvin Joseph. So last year, Zay Jones was with the Raiders, and he made several big plays down the field. Basically, he just drew pass interferences like crazy in that Cowboy Raider game. Anthony Brown just didn't get his head around, and Jacksonville's starting to figure out that you can just do that with Zay Jones because he's bigger and faster than anybody thinks. I'm really curious to see how Kelvin Joseph handles that matchup, because if he doesn't give up big plays and there's not big chunk penalties, I think they're going to be all right on defense. I do.
Yeah, and honestly, like that's the thing about Kelvin Joseph, right? Is that like he'll do 90% of the play right. It's the question is what happens at that last 10%? Does he get his head around? Does he deflect the ball? Does he hold on to the receiver? Does he interfere? That will be the play. And look, is there potential for a couple of big plays that could develop out of this? Absolutely. That the Cowboys still got to continue to maintain. Like
Yes.
if you give up a big play, you cannot give up a touchdown in the
Battle
red
back.
zone.
Yes.
Battle back, and that's what the one thing that this Cowboys defense has been good about. I tend to think that this, despite how good Trevor Lawrence is, and despite how good this offense has been running, there's just too many opportunities where. And there's been too many times where I've seen the last few weeks that they've made critical mistakes at critical times that have derailed their drives. The Cowboys got to take advantage of when the Jacksonville Jaguars make those mistakes. This is still a very young team. They're going to give you an opportunity. Yeah. Make sure you take advantage.
So it sounds like you're predicting the Cowboys to win.
I think so. Yeah, I'm picking them. I honestly, I really did think about not picking the Cowboys because there's just it's the first road game in a while. They are playing a team that's young and up and coming. That they're hungry to win a game. This is going to be a big game for them. There's
a 1 p.m. Eastern time start.
Yeah, there's so much shuffling going on, like with the Cowboys offensive line and with getting T.Y. Hilton into this. I could easily see this being another slow start simply because of all those things I just mentioned. And like you mentioned, the 1 p.m. Eastern start. But I just think the Cowboys are I think the Cowboys are just way too talented compared to this team. And I really think that the Cowboys defense is pissed and should be pissed. Like they didn't play the way that they expected to.
No,
I have a feeling that they're going to come out and want to take it out on the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a game just with from the scheme, like the scheme makes fights situation that they probably feel best throwing the football, and that's where Dallas really wants them to do. So that's bad news for Jacksonville. I'm picking the Cowboys to win 28-21.
Yeah, if they want to drop back and try to throw the ball 40 times a game, I think the Cowboys will be very happy with that. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be decided in the last 3 or 4 minutes. For old time's sake, I'll take Jacksonville to win 27-24. How's that?
I like it. Just for old times, making sure we win sake.
Yeah, there you go. We need this one. I just want that Philly Cowboy game to have some kind of meaning, right? Like just the outside hope that the Cowboys can still maybe steal the division. All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All the same places that you get the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Check us out over on YouTube as well. Follow Landon at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy Saturday football, Sunday football. We've got Monday Night Football. Don't get divorced this weekend. It's really easy to do it in the last weekend of shopping before the holidays. We'll see you guys right back here late Sunday night, Monday morning. I don't know. We got to figure it out. But enjoy the game. See you guys next time.